The spring buying season's here. How does this year compare to years past? We're about to share with you. Hey there, Christian Walsh, Coldwell Banker Wire Associates. We're real estate brokers based in Southern California, helping buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords in California and beyond. And we're here to give you your spring 2021 market update. We're going to tell you what's going on in Los Angeles, Orange County, and Riverside when it comes to the housing market. How do foreclosures look starting in 2021? We're going to share. We're going to compare notices of default, also called foreclosure starts in California. We're going to compare January 2021 to years past. We're also going to discuss the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan and the things in there for tenants and landlords and those at the bottom of the K-shaped recovery. By the way, if you're a Southern California buyer or seller and you want the most up-to-date market information, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And away we go. Time to dive into the data. Let me get out of the way so that we can actually look at the numbers. And it is an interesting time for real estate in Southern California. So as a quick reminder, we're doing month over month. So that is the 1st of January through the 14th of January. So you can compare month over month. So that's 2021. Then we're going back to 2017 to compare February's, the first 2 weeks, the 1st to the 14th of February's. That's what we're comparing here. So Orange County, it is a danger zone. And what do I mean by that? The danger zone is we do not have enough inventory. I've been tracking these numbers every 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to track these numbers to see if and when there's a shift. The other interesting thing is the numbers will still look extreme for year over year as compared to years past. So last year and the year before, they were normal Februarys. We didn't have the pandemic. What'll be interesting to see is how the year over year numbers look in March, April, May, June. We're going to see the interesting trend that develops. But right now, these are still normal numbers when we look at years past. So we have not yet touched into year over year comparing COVID to COVID numbers. So anyway, you can see in the data that we have a severe lack of inventory. Now the good news is we have more than January, the first 2 weeks of January, but that's not unexpected. We should have more because we're starting to get into the spring season. A lot of people like to wait until after the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was the 7th this year. Maybe that explains it. So we'll see it when we look at the numbers for February and go into March if we do have more listings. But right now we just don't have enough. The scary number to see, if there's a scary number, and this is scary for the buyer, not for the seller. Sellers love seeing this. For buyers, this is the scary number. When you see the properties go into escrow in the first 2 weeks, as compared to the number of listings. When the escrows exceed the number of listings, that means that we sucked up every bit of inventory. And that's exactly what happened. Then the other relevant thing is to compare the first 2 weeks year over year. So you can see that we're at record low. So record low new listings with record high properties going under contract. That's what causes the problem for buyers and is great news for sellers. So if you're a seller, it's a crazy seller's market out there. So in LA, you can see that there's actually more listings coming than escrows, but they're still very close. That's a record number of properties going under contract in the first 2 weeks of February if you look at year over year numbers. The listings, that's actually a normal, almost normal number of listings in the first 2 weeks of February. So while it is very much a seller's market in Los Angeles, it's not quite as much of a seller's market as it is in Orange County. Let's see what Riverside says. And Riverside for single family homes is a very similar tale to Orange County. You can see record high number of properties going under contract, record low inventory. So same story in Riverside. And what we find in Riverside and we're seeing now is as folks are being priced out of Orange County, they're driving to the Inland Empire. They're driving to Riverside. So that's why we're seeing, we got the bidding wars in Orange County and it's driving them over to Riverside and causing bidding wars over there. Plus the folks moving in Riverside as well, that's causing bidding wars as well. And we call this phenomenon drive until you can qualify. Drive until you qualify. Now it's time for the multifamily numbers. So Orange County multifamily has picked up, and we can see it in these numbers. We see that while the listings, there's really no lack of listings for multifamily right now. We do see that we're at a record number of properties going under contract. This is surprising to me because we do have SB 91, and that prevents landlords from removing tenants who can't pay rent due to COVID-19. In the LA numbers, we can see it's busy, not quite as red hot as Orange County. A lot more sales in general, a lot more properties go under contract. That's the nature of LA in general. We can see that the properties going under contract is high, listings, it seems like a normal average beginning of February. The interesting thing in Los Angeles is they have a more stringent eviction moratorium than SB 91, so that could explain why things aren't quite as red hot in Los Angeles for multifamily real estate. And Riverside, not a whole lot going on, not quite as fast as Orange County, and definitely not as many sales as we see in LA. Pretty normal market there. These numbers don't look atypical for the number of properties that have gone under contract. Looks like a pretty typical beginning of February, and listings pretty typical. So Riverside, not much going on with multifamily, kind of a normal market in Riverside. So for the report on foreclosure data, what we're looking at here is the notice of default in January's, and we've got year-over-year data, and this is for all foreclosure types, so this includes residential, commercial, anything that's going into foreclosure. Now, it's important to remember that the foreclosure moratorium has been extended through June 30th, 2021, and this affects about 70% of the mortgages out there. So those properties, they're not going to start the foreclosure process, so we won't see the notice of default, which is the very first step in the California foreclosure process. That's why it's handy to look at these numbers to see just how far behind we are. So here we have Orange County, LA, San Diego, Riverside. You can see the foreclosure starts for the first month of 2021 in January. The numbers are low. This would really only be those non-conforming, those private mortgage lenders. This is not the general market going into foreclosure yet because of the foreclosure moratorium. So looking year over year, we are still looking in January pre-COVID. So you can see in 2020 that the foreclosure starts were up, the notice of defaults were up, but still nowhere near the 2011 levels of crazy record number of properties going into the foreclosure process. And you can see that we're low, obviously, and that's going to continue to keep the foreclosure process slow for many of the properties out there. We're not yet going to see the numbers spike in foreclosures until at least after June. So second half of the year is when foreclosures can start, and we'll see if that gets pushed again. Mortgage forbearance plans have been extended again through June 30th, 2021. So this affects those borrowers who are not able to make payments. They have until June 30th to go ahead and adopt a forbearance plan, which may mean smaller or no payments at all. The other big news is that those who are already in forbearance, who essentially had 1 year to not make any payments, that has been extended as well, another 6 months. So those from the very beginning could have as long as 18 months with no mortgage payments. Also dovetailing into this is the foreclosure moratorium has been pushed, and that's also through June 30th, 2021. And that means that for about 70% of the residential mortgages out there, this will affect those, and foreclosure cannot start on those mortgages for non-payment. And don't forget in California that it's 120 plus 90 plus 21. Those are the different phases of foreclosure in the state of California. So starting with the notice of default, then notice of trustee sale, and then finally the sale itself. So once you add that in, and they can't start until after June 30th, we're now pushing into 2022, where foreclosed properties could actually start to come to the market. The American Rescue Plan, that's the name for the $1.9 trillion stimulus package that is under consideration right now. And there is a lot in the package, of course. You got to do a lot to spend $1.9 trillion. So there's a lot that addresses COVID-19, expanding access and services related directly to the pandemic. But there's also stuff in there that's going to help out landlords and tenants and those on the bottom of the K-shaped recovery. And what do I mean by that? So we have a recovery that's moving like this. So we have folks at the top who are continuing to do really well, and then we have folks at the bottom who are continuing to do not so well. And those at the bottom of the K-shaped recovery need help with unemployment. So the American Rescue Plan includes $400 a week federal bump in the unemployment benefits, and that will go through September of 2021. As of right now, the stimulus plan that was passed at the end of December is offering $300 of federal bump a week, but that expires in March. So this would last through September. So there's an additional $1,400 stimulus check in there, which plus the $600 from the stimulus plan at the end of December would equal $2,000 in stimulus. Additionally, that stimulus plan passed at the end of December had $25 billion in there to help tenants and landlords. It helped set up a rental assistance program. Those funds were distributed to different states and larger metropolitan areas. And as of the filming of this video, those funds are now starting to land in accounts. Some states like California, it's going to be March 15th before it goes out at the statewide level, but those larger metropolitan areas are working on getting those funds out now. In the American Rescue Plan, there's another $25 billion in there. And those funds together, that $50 billion, will help dramatically help landlords catch up and tenants catch up. There still is a much larger need, anywhere from 70 to 100 billion in back rent that's owed. But this will help get us to a point where a lot of landlords and tenants are caught up. And this ultimately will help buyers and sellers continue to be confident in the market and eventually get the K-shape together and going up in this direction together. Leave your comments below. I want to know where you think the market's headed in 2021. Of course, subscribe to our email newsletter. It's free, weekly, comes out on Sunday mornings, and in there we have more market data and continue to keep updates coming on topics for landlords and tenants and buyers and sellers. So make sure you subscribe. We have a link below. I want to thank you personally for watching this video. We got more content like this coming. Every 2 weeks, we're going to give you a market update to let you know exactly where the Southern California real estate market is. This has been Christian Walsh, Coldwell Banker Wire Associates, and we appreciate you.